Hello and welcome to another video from the fanpub.com.
Excellent to be back. And today's video,
Which is exciting. We're talking about breakouts and sleepers in this list. So,
yeah,
really important players for your draft, for you
we'll
to target.
We'll probably talk a lot more detail about these exact players as the videos unfold near your draft day. So listen to them now and then look at them later. So that's going to be really good. So,
Okay,
shall
you want
I
to
kick
kick
it
us
off?
off? Yeah, you kick us
Well, I'm
off.
going to kick it off with my one of my favourite targets. Has been one of my favourite targets in Dynasty. He's been one of my favourite targets already in redraft. I was quite happy to take him here in the live big money league. Many people will criticise taking him in the second round of that league, but it's a player I had to have on my team. There are players you just have to have. Now, David Montgomery for me this year fell to the right team with being the Bears. In my opinion, it's the right team. I saw him as a player that can go between the tackles. He likes contact. He reminded me a little of. I'm not saying the same because it's very difficult to be Marshawn Lynch, but he likes contact in that way, and he has an uncanny knack to throw defenders off. So once he gets a roll in and he takes one or two down, he's very difficult to bring down. And people will criticise he doesn't have top end speed. I think if you look at him and look at the tape carefully, he doesn't need it. He's a goal line. He can do the goal line work. And the best thing about this big man, blocks brilliantly and catches like a dream. So all those things are there. So actually, the truth of it is, what I think you're looking at is, as a breakout player, is a guy that can really challenge to be, next year when we look back, one of the best backs in our league in the NFL. And I think people will be looking at him that way. The Bears have the kind of schedule and the kind of defense that means this guy's going to have short fields and the kind of schedule that's going to need him. And they're going to need to run and use him. And he's going to get a big, heavy workload year one. So mega excited to see what this guy can do. And I think the sky's the limit. I don't think I've misread the tape, and the first signs from camp, and it's only the beginning, excite me. And I'm really pleased that I'm right with what I think so far. We will see. It can be a risk with rookies, and there's always that risk, but just sometimes you have to trust your gut. So that's how I feel about him. I think he's going to be a really good player. One to put on your target list.
David Montgomery, his ADP is 52.
52, so he is climbing. When we first started off, we were thinking about this guy as one of those players we spoke about in January. At that stage, he was in the 80s range, so he's climbed quite considerably up to this point. So yeah, one to watch, and I still don't think the climb is quite over yet. We'll see how the pre-season pans out, but once people see him knocking defenders out of the way, people are going to get excited about this guy, and rightfully so.
Okay.
Who's the first man on your list?
Right, well, the first one I've got is Mike Williams. His ADP is 67.
We love Mike.
I think if you watch the end of last season, and this is what I'm basing it on, he really broke out. He became a red zone nightmare. So, he actually had 11 touchdowns last year, 10 caught and 1 rushing as well. So he's 1 year on. Hunter Henry's back, so that might hurt him a bit. But Darrell Williams is gone, so that's obviously big time in his favour. I think just the talent will out. Remember, this guy missed all of his rookie year. So last year was his first full year in the NFL. He hadn't really had any work before that. And, 11 touchdowns in your first year. You're entitled to improve, massively. He's got a good quarterback in Rivers. We don't know about Melvin Gordon yet. I mean,
that's the big thing, isn't it? Okay, I think what you're highlighting is a guy that didn't just break out last year, has got the chance to break out even further. Because
that's the whole point of this video.
And Gordon, I'm not sure he's going to be back for at least 10 games. So I mean, suddenly there's going to be more work going around for sure. So I think this guy's a massive benefit. And as you say, what a red zone nightmare. We all like him.
I think he's an absolute beast, and he's a nightmare for a cornerback. So remember, he's going to play against the second stringers as well, because Keenan Allen's going to take away the
best cover.
The best cornerbacks on the opposition team. So
I thought his route running improved as well through the year. That was another thing I noticed from a coaching point of view. I just thought he got better. He didn't get, it wasn't steady the same. It felt like he was learning all the time in this game.
And if you're in a 12-team league, you're talking round 6 or something like
round
that.
6,
so,
yeah. You'll take that all day long.
If you can get him there, then fill your boots, I'd say.
Yeah, in small leagues, definitely worth a shot. Give you your wide receiver 3, and even a large league where you've got to take a punt on someone who's got a breakout potential. This is year 3 for Mike Williams. He lost his whole first year to injury.
That's why, exactly.
So well worth looking at those year 3 players. This guy, as Al identifies, that we all like him. And I'll be honest, I just wish I could get more shares of him. That's how high I like him too. So I agree with you. It's a great pick.
And I took him in the big draft behind me as well. So
that backs up what we're saying. We're not afraid to go after the players we trust. Anyway, my next guy it should be no surprise, has been on my list since January the 1st.
Yeah.
It's Darrell Henderson. I've been taking him everywhere in Dynasty. I love him a lot for this year. In redraft, it will be no different. We'll go into details specifically why I think he has every chance to do really well. But if you're in any doubt about this guy, if you're looking for a home run threat, a guy that could take the ball at any point in a game and go the distance, this is the guy out of all the players that are drafted this year, as far as I can see. He's a bloke that can take the ball on a swing pass and go 80 yards. So he's going to be very, very exciting to watch. And now with the news of Gurley improving, his stock value is dropping, which is fantastic. 107 now. It was very high at one point. It was in the it was near the 5th round value in a large league, so it was about sort of, I'd say 66, 67.
So you're now getting 107.
So 107 is worth loading onto your team. And I tell you what, he's got the potential. We talk about sleeper. The sky is the limit for this guy, because people will argue, well, if Gurley receives 25% less of the work, he's still a workhorse. They've already said that they've got to take pressure off Gurley. They've got to stop him having all the ball all the time. And they've talked about who's going to be doing that. And it looks like it's likely to be 99% Darrell Henderson, because Malcolm Brown, we know what we've got with him.
I mean, you can pick up both. You can pick up Malcolm Brown with your last pick if you
want.
If you're down on Gurley, or if you're worried about Gurley like we are.
Then you go for the backups. But I really believe in Darrell Henderson. I've got a funny feeling, it's a gut feeling in this bit of it, that when he touches the ball for the first time in the NFL, it goes the distance and scores. I've had that vision in my mind for a long time. I just think he's capable of anything, and he's an exciting player to watch. So we'll see how it plays out for him. But definitely for sure, one to put on the radar, one to stick on your bench, and just see how this situation plays out, because this guy could end up with mass appeal, particularly if there is something seriously wrong with Gurley or misses time.
Okay, my second one is Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I talked about him a lot last year. I was a big fan of his.
Yeah.
We told you to snag him in Dynasty wherever you could. This guy's going at 111. He's definitely a high possibility. He's our fancy to get the Green Bay receiver 2. Bearing in mind, the Green Bay receiver 2, if Rodgers is fit all year, is somebody that could break out, because the points are there.
I can give you the points on this as well if you like. It helps back you up, because Al's right. He's identified the player himself, and it's a great pick, and it'll know that I believe in him when he says this, because I've tried grabbing him in dynasties as well. So it tells you how high I'm on, and we do influence each other's thoughts. And I think Al will be the first to admit that. Many people think, it's the other way around, but actually it's not. It's 50-50. We're always constantly discussing and weighing things up and being never afraid to go with our man, but at the same time, if we agree on someone, we agree on him, and we do think he's the 2. And to back him up, if he is the 2, if you go back to the years where a number 2 was relevant, and there hasn't been a relevant number 2 for a little while, actually. There's been bits of different players. This guy is definitely getting, slowly taking that job away from Geronimo Allison, quite clearly to me. And if he does that, it's 800 plus yards every year and 6 to 8 touchdowns. I don't even care what to think. At 111, that is serious wide receiver 2 numbers.
And that's what you're looking for. It's
all
all about value. It's like gambling. I'm a gambler, and I always look for value in my drafts. You've got to get the players ahead of their value, and I think at 111 he could definitely outrun those odds.
You could be taking players a lot higher that don't do what this guy's capable of, and that's the complete definition of that statement. So
exactly.
Really good.
Right,
really
who's
good.
your third one?
My third one is a guy. This is just something you see, and then sometimes you just have to change your opinion. It's like really weird. With wide receivers, they're very hard to judge when they come into the NFL. Calvin Ridley came in and did what he did in Atlanta. There was nothing wrong with Julio Jones at all, but this kid flew, and he got a lot of touchdowns, and he showed flashes of brilliance working alongside Julio Jones. And I think what we're about to see is a changing of the guard. I think by the end of the season, particularly in those final few weeks, we will see the baton being handed over. That's not being disrespectful to Julio Jones. You just can't go on forever. And when you see something, as Al says, you have to get ahead of it. Now, at this price, you are paying a high premium. It's 53. He's not slipping under people's radar. He's probably your wide receiver 2, to be honest, maybe 3 if you're lucky in a small league. But if you can get that value, even the wide receiver 2, just take it and believe in what we are seeing, because this is a very special guy. And why I think this is really extraordinarily good, I just think they're playing 13 games in a dome. This is the perfect scenario with a running game that's incredibly suspect. That's probably going to have to rely on the passing game again. I can see repeat numbers for both guys. I wouldn't be surprised if both go over 1,000 plus yards. That shouldn't be no shocker. They did last year. But I could see 1,200 each. I think this is a very interesting situation. So I love Calvin Ridley for this year. And what I have seen, I've described as simple. He's a boom. And he can still beat out that value there. He could produce wide receiver 1 numbers. We could be talking about him inside that top 7, 8 numbers next year. So it's still value. And if you can get him, it's well worth a shot. So I'm absolutely all on board with him. And I love the value there, and I will take him. And if I could get him as a second, I would have done. But unfortunately, other people were a bit ahead of me as well, believing him too. So Calvin Ridley, one to watch and one to be excited about for this season again. I think people that will think that's his ceiling. I think we haven't tapped into it yet, so we'll see how that plays out.
Okay, interesting. Okay, my third player is Curtis Samuel. His ADP is 112. Now, a few weeks ago, he probably wasn't really on my radar. He had in his rookie year, he showed glimpses of ability, but I was just reading a bit in the camp, and the head coach was saying he is light years ahead of where he was last year. He was like, the way he talked about him as well, you could tell he was excited for him. They were using him all over the pitch. He was, doing jet sweeps.
It's always a good sign when
catching.
Being
He
used.
was heavily involved in the offense. And at 112, again, I'm looking for somebody that can step up and, just be value for your pick down there, and that's what you're looking for. So I think Curtis Samuel is somebody that should be on your radar because he'll climb. I think he'll go a lot shorter.
I think with the camp news coming out and the way that people are talking about him, I think he has to climb. I mean, that's a tremendously good value down there, and one could argue that's a steal, and it has a great chance because that offense is a little bit in flux. So there's going to be some people coming out of nowhere to improve upon what we know.
And I think he's somebody that can take, short
Slant
dunk
ball
off.
and
And
it's got lightning quick speed.
if you're worried about Cam's shoulder, maybe this dink and duck stuff with McCaffrey and Curtis Samuel is probably more suited than it is to DJ Moore, in my opinion. He's going a lot higher. So.
I agree with that. That's a very good shout, and it's hard to argue, and we're going to see how that plays out because it is definitely a good shot down there. I'm not fully on board yet with Curtis Samuel, but you have to warm to what you see.
It's more I'm looking for value.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to produce massive numbers, but I think he'll outrun his ADP of 112.
Well, there's no argument from me, Al.
Good value.
That's value. A 112. I mean, there are players you want to load onto your team. He's certainly got a chance. Everybody's speaking in the right way about him, so you've got to start buying into that.
He's a second-year player, so he's got every chance to really step it up this year.
This guy's ridiculously cheap. I'm about to talk about. So it's Devin Singletary sitting at ADP 175. It's ludicrous. I don't understand how this guy's still floating down ADP charts that deep. I guess because people don't like the Bills, because they think there are two great running backs ahead of him. That's Frank Gore and LaShawn McCoy. I just think people can't see the writings on the wall. I mean, this kid is getting first team snaps in camp.
He is, yeah.
So there's no doubt they paid a high premium for him. Always follow the stock. I always think what you do is you look at a team and what they do with their draft picks is very important because those draft picks equate to money. So the higher the pick, the more money you're going to have to spend on them, and ultimately how much more it's going to cost you down the road later. They like the kid. What I like about him is simple. He cuts on it's like watching a Madden's game. The moment he stops.
Don't say cuts on a dime. That's McCoy's.
This is even better. He's just
McCoy's
he's exceptional for this.
Yeah,
it's his jump cut ability, the ability to change directions. All accounts so far are doing exactly what I suspected would happen, and it gets better for him as the weather gets colder and he's in the right team. So in Buffalo, I don't think he starts the year off. I'm not under any illusions here. He won't start the year, I doubt. I mean, that'd be brilliant if he did. But I think it's 4 or 5 games. There'll be a snap count. You watch for the snap count. You watch him getting some work, and then you see when that count gets even, that's it. That's the time that he's about to take over. And that's when you load him into your teams. But I think that chances are when you see him running in the NFL and what he can do to defenders, he can make you look silly and he can make you look like you've lost your ankles. So it's an exceptional player, dirt cheap, 3 down back potential, great hands. I mean, you don't often find them in any kind of redraft.
Yeah, ADP 175. I mean, it's probably your last pick of any 12-team
Happy
draft.
to take it all day long.
If you want to stash him, especially ones with deep benches, you can just stash him and wait to see if he...
Talking about sleepers, that's the definition.
I mean, he could come in late with fresh legs and, be a league winner for you, so...
Yeah.
I think it's a good shout.
Now, he's one of our favourite players and one of your favourites of all time, this guy, isn't it?
Yeah, Jaylen Samuels?
Yeah, love him.
Yeah, Jaylen Samuels is, again, somebody I've been talking up for a few years now.
Yeah.
We told you to pick him up in your rookie draft a few years ago. And I think already, if you had him at the end of last year, I mean, during during the playoff periods of your fantasy leagues.
Why
he
is
was
he
the man to
still
watch.
so cheap? I mean, 146 with all the news about James.
Well, because
Conner
James Conner, everyone believes is the number one, and it is true, he is the number one. But Jaylen Samuels will be involved as well. And if anything happens to Conner, like it did last year, then he's probably
because the camp has already said that he's not a 3-down back. I mean, that's about as damning as it gets. So why is he still going so high?
They've been
James
running
Conner?
a lot of 2 RB sets with Jaylen Samuels, and they've been using them all over the place. He's actually got tight end skills as well. So
doesn't that by definition mean that what we're highlighting is a potential bust in Conner, because there's a real chance the work is immediately you're taking a third of the work away minimum.
Well, even Conner himself has said Jaylen Samuels is going to be used a lot, and it's going to be more of a committee.
I think we said a few weeks back one of the keys to this pick that Al's made is that the Jaylen Samuels' original running back coach is now in charge there. So I mean that's a huge.
So he knows all about Jaylen Samuels and his skills. So.
And I think the coincidence is not been lost on us. So I love that pick a lot. I mean there's so much we could talk about with Jaylen Samuels.
I just think he's not going to let you down. If you need to put him in the flex, you can do that. I mean there's a potential that if anything happens to Conner, or he just outperforms Conner. Because
wouldn't there also be a point as well mentioning, because this is a great pick here, that there's still a chance he gets defined as a tight end / running back.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the other thing. If your league does designate him as a tight end, then you'd be laughing with Jaylen Samuels.
He'll certainly produce more than tight ends, probably. A lot of pack tight ends. That's a bonus. For
I just think he's a good stash player, and he at some point in the season you'll be glad you got him.
Yeah, great pick.
A 146 is a no-brainer.
Love Al's pick there. So it's great. It's not costing anything. And this guy's again another cheapie, and it's just one that I just love. You won't often hear us now talking about these kind of running backs that come from this team. This is Damien Harris, New England running back. Now, why am I picking him? He's cheap. That's the first thing. He's 149, very very cheap, through the floor cheap.
High-powered offense,
and we know what we're going to get from New England. The big question would, of course, always be, what's the point of picking these New England backs, because they're worthless? Well, the one thing I learned over the last 2 years, the thing that struck me, and I had to recheck it to be sure this was accurate, was this. Whenever I pick a running back, or anybody picks a running back in fantasy drafts below 100, it's a fail. So when you look at the Sony Michel this year, James White, they're all inside 100. It's amazing how many times it happens every year. They fail. They let you down miserably. You pay their ADP and it just lets you down. This guy's so cheap, you just load him on, stash him on the bench, and let's see how it plays out. If I'm right, the very least he's getting is third down work. I think his hands are as good as James White, if not better. Now, I know they trust James White. I get that. This is New England. On any given week, on any given day, you can be dumped very quick. And a player like Damien Harris, who so far has done everything that's asked of him, and from my indication of camp, has just had a perfect camp. They're not raising the expectation. They're just saying he's doing a job.
And they drafted him fairly high. Was it the third round?
Third round.
He
would have arguably been a running back if he hadn't have been injured. He would have been a running back that would have gone very, very high in this year's rookie draft boards. But he did, and so fell through the floor. New England capitalised because they knew what they got. And they haven't, they've just stashed him, and we'll see how it plays out. For me, he's a stash player. He's one of them. You don't pick him up. You don't need to pay a high price. You pick him up as ADP, or if slightly ahead if you really believe in him, and you just stash him on your bench, and we'll see how it plays out. I bet we look back in a year's time and realise that he was the pick of the RBs for New England. That's how I think it will play out.
Right. Okay, I think it's a good pick. My last pick is a rookie running back. He's in a backfield that likes to share about. That's the bad news. They like to rotate their running backs. They've got Jordan Howard. This guy is Miles Sanders. He's going ADP 85. I just think...
And you picked him in the large...
I did pick him in the last...
But you were very cleverly covered him with Jordan Howard.
So I've covered both, basically, because I think if it's not one, it's going to be the other. They've got a 400 running backs. That is a worry. But I think he could be the best of them. I think he's going to be exciting. Saquon Barkley described him as best running back in the draft.
Yep.
I don't know if that means anything, but he's certainly getting the right sort of buzz in camp now. He's really... People are saying he's been the best running back in the camp by far. And I think if he's that good, maybe they'll ditch the committee, and at 85 you could have a player that should be in the second or third round in your team. So
I think it's one of these players. He worries me a bit, but what I do like is everything else said is fair. And the other thing I like about it is what I do see happening is I think the first few weeks of the season, I can totally get that there may be a bit of a committee. But I can't trust Jordan Howard to win that job over Miles Sanders. I'm sure the talent must shine through.
Well,
surely.
I mean, at 85, it's not like you could pick him, 7th round?
Yeah.
In a 12
I mean, he's arguably your 7th player off the board in a smaller league,
you can
and
just
that's
put him on
okay.
your bench and just
And
wait.
if it is a bigger league, sure, you're having to take a bit of a punt on a player because that's the nature of these bigger leagues, these 14, 16-man leagues. I still think he's obviously still not your first, or even maybe your second. He's more likely your third.
But I can't see him not even having any games where he's involved. So
Yeah.
I think he's a breakout candidate, and I'm looking for the big upside in a player at this sort of level. I've filled my team pretty much, and now I'm shooting for the stars to see if I can find somebody down there. It was quite similar to Kamara. I mean, if you remember when Alvin Kamara came into the league, everyone said he's behind Adrian Peterson. He's behind Mark Ingram. He won't even get a chance this year. But he was that good. They didn't play Peterson. 3 or 4 weeks in, Kamara took over, and we all know how good Kamara is. And that's the sort of thing I can see happening with Miles Sanders.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
I'm not sure if he is as good as Kamara, but it's definitely...
Well, he definitely brings a great situation. I think to back a little bit more back Al up, I think the thing I like about the situation in particular is there's not a lot to beat out, let's be honest. And the second thing is their schedule is quite nice for them. And I think you're right, this guy does have standalone value. So all things considered, there is a very big ceiling. And it's just a question of how high he hits. So very interesting.
One thing I do want to mention is, when I looked at it, I had Chris Godwin in my mind as a breakout candidate. When I looked at his ADP, and there's a lot of people tipping him, it's 44.
It's too high now.
You're actually paying the price.
Yeah.
There's not much upside on that anymore. He'd have to really be, what would he have to score to get the value there, do you reckon?
Well, I mean, the problem is that's
160, 180.
In our large league, that's the 3rd round pick now, so you've got to get 160. Now, there are a lot of wide receivers that are arguably wide receiver ones that struggle to hit 160. So that, you're asking a guy in Tampa to do this? No, I don't see that.
I mean, he could do it, but then that would be just equaling his value.
Yeah, I think the odds are you lose out a little here. I mean, maybe he gets 140, you're still 20 points down. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to try and beat and win.
Trying to find value about, getting upside on all your picks. We've picked 10 here. A lot of them are deep shots, so they're not going to cost you a lot. And the other ones are sort of players we think, young players, 2nd or 3rd year players that we think can really step up this year and break out.
We always want to hear your thoughts. We'd love to see what you think as well. Do you agree? Disagree with us? We're all okay with that.
And another one I just want to give another mention to, bonus for you guys, that we both kind of like. Cooper Kupp at 50.
Oh yeah, cheap, very cheap.
He was slowly having a breakout year last year. And he should be going higher, to be honest.
I did take him actually on the big league. I
think you got him at a very good price.
Yeah,
I think
seemed quite good.
You can get him anywhere around there, or even a little bit later.
I was a bit sceptical. I don't like taking injured players, but I saw the tape, and more importantly, a long piece of tape. So a lot of work in training was the key. Can he cut right? Is he all the way back? He looked 90% of the way back when I saw the tape. And that's 3 weeks old. He looks all the way back now. Catching and diving for balls in practice tells you a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically, if we just look at his game log he played 5 games and then he came back and got injured again. But the worst he had was 52 yards. He had a 152-yard game, 71, 63. He also managed 6 touchdowns in those. That's almost a touchdown a week if you take away his injury.
Difficult to predict, though, over 16 games, but the upside's certainly there.
Yeah, exactly. But he was steadily having a breakout year is what I'm saying, and I think if he stays healthy, and it's always a big if, but because of the injury is a worry with him, I think that's going to look a pretty good ADP as well. So.
It is, yeah, definitely one to mention.
Right, well, who are your sleepers? But let us know down in the comments down there. Get yourself down there. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already.
Keep sharing the videos, and by all means, please do. That's what they're there for.
Because we will look back next year and we'll look at the comments and we'll give you a shout out if you've nailed it. Because
and that's a great thing.
It's all about the community, really. We've got an ever-growing community. Some on YouTube, some in our Discord group, which is very lively. If you like Discord, it's an app, and you love the NFL, then
the leagues are some of the most active.
Come and join us because there's people on all the time. So pretty much 24/7. Me and Sean are always on. So. you want to chat to us, or even just love talking about NFL and stuff, and particularly fantasy.
It's becoming all year round, isn't it? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
truth of it. So why not become a part of that community and come and chat to us? Because the leagues are very, very ferocious. They're great leagues, and you learn a lot as well. And you're locking horns with some damn fine drafters, that's for sure. So you'll never look back.
Yeah, and you learn from it as well. You learn from the
and
other
you
good
can
players.
see how tough these live leagues are, and the crush on running backs and so forth is just remarkable. So you're learning all the time. There's nothing slips under the radar with these guys.
Okay, well, thanks very much for watching. Let us know your sleepers, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.